Welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shira.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karista, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Love Always Self. Hi. And welcome all the new listeners and subscribers. Thank you so much for being here. We're super excited to have you and feel completely honored that you chose us.
Very, very happy. So thank you. And for any of you new listeners, or if you haven't been here before, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps us grow. And like and share if you are enjoying this content.
Absolutely. We're here to lift you up.
All the way.
So sharing is caring. Woohoo.
Speaking of sharing. So in one of our previous episodes, I had mentioned that we sometimes receive very guided messages in our dreams, right? And especially like when you're waking up from a dream, I know a lot of people, and including myself in this case, we get these really massive thoughts. And it's like, sometimes if you don't grab your phone or a notepad or something, you'll forget. So I write them down as soon as I wake up, especially if it's a massive thought. So I had a funny one the other night.
Okay.
That I want to share.
Or in the morning.
The other morning, yes. And that I want to share because it seems like this was something that was so prevalent that it was so vivid of a thought.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Okay. So I wrote down, when was the last time you had a conversation with someone and it wasn't time limited, or you didn't feel like you needed to rush through everything you had to say, and when you either walked away or hung up the phone or ended the call, you felt so heard and complete in your conversation? And that was the question that I had, or questions that I had. And then I followed it up with a statement of, for me, it was high school, when we had the capacity, limited technology, and attention span that lasted longer than 60 seconds.
Oh man, but wow, high school, like that's that. Now granted, there's a couple components in there where there's no rush. And I think that's like the biggest one as far as high school.
Right.
And then B, also feeling heard and received. Now, I hope that between you and I, you have felt heard and received
Of course.
since high school.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like there's always that next thing that we have to get to. Even on our recording days, like today, like this is a weekday.
Yeah.
I came directly from work.
Yep.
And you literally had just stopped working. And then we have to go do dinner things. And
I got to go back to work.
Be with our significant others and spend time with them, finding time to spend with them. Yeah. And so it's always this feeling like there's no just being, like sleepovers.
This is I think that's what I was trying to get to, like looking back on my memory for that moment, right? It was like, I always, back then, I didn't have the concerns or the responsibilities, because I mean, your parents took care of everything for you. Mm-hmm. Your job was to get an education and play with your friends. And that's exactly what I did. Right. Yeah. And so of course I had, oh man, you remember, okay, I'm aging myself here, but I think pagers came in when I was like late in high school. And so we didn't have the distractions of social media. And
so we had wired phones.
Wired phones. Mine was clear and lit up when it rang.
Yes, I had one of those also.
I loved it. It had a pink cord. Mm-hmm. Ooh. Anyway, so.
And you remember just sitting on the phone for hours?
And you had to hold that thing either with your shoulder or with your hand. And sometimes you get clever and you lay on it with the pillow. Yeah. And your pillow would like assist in propping it up next to your face. But you would talk for hours. And it just felt so good to be heard in that capacity where you could just riff back and forth for that long of a period of time. And I think I was thinking about the whole, like, when was the last time I've been able to do that in a relaxed capacity where there was no time limit, where you didn't have to go make dinner, or you didn't have to get back to work, or you didn't have to go take care of some responsibility of some sort. And I think that there's times where I miss that because those options happens so far and few between when I'm talking to individuals. And I'll notice, you ever find yourself in your car driving home from work and you call somebody and then they don't answer. And so you find somebody else because you just want to have like a little chit chat to make the drive a little bit easier. But, or maybe you end up talking to 4 different people, but each conversation was only like a minute or 2 long because somebody had to let you go because of some busy thing that was going on.
Right.
Like, that's what I'm talking about. And not saying that any of this is like anyone's fault or there's any wrongdoing of any sort. It's just more of the fact that occasionally you just miss having those moments where you could just talk for hours. And it doesn't have to be at like, I got to speed talk through my conversation and think on very quick at the tip of my toes or as fast as I possibly can, just get it all out because I don't know when the next time I'll be able to talk or anything of that nature. So that's what I mean, I think, by what I wrote down.
I want to challenge you on the thought of it's been since high school. And that's only because of the weekend that I just got gifted with.
Yeah.
So my spouse and I, we drove to visit his sister along the coast in Texas. And we were there for maybe 48 hours. We got there Friday night, left Sunday afternoon. But all day Saturday, it was like relaxed. Like there was no rush.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there was a goal to get out on the boat to go fishing at a certain time, which we didn't meet. But it was all very like just going with the flow.
Yeah.
And again, like the group of us, the 4 of us, we had that whole time spent together laughing and joking and just being silly. And I recognized in that moment, actually, like while we were out on the boat, I had a moment of just like absorbing the wind in my hair and on my skin and my face.
Feeling those sensations.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just like closed my eyes and breathed in the salty sea air and felt the sun very hot on my skin. And, you know, just listening to the sounds, whether that was the boat going or the wind flying by my ears or the other people driving nearby laughing and having a great time or the birds flying. And so it was like a really nice, peaceful day of conversation. And so I think that there are pockets within our busy lives. And because our lives are so filled with the next thing to do, it's easy to forget those moments because they are a lot more few and far between compared to when we were kids in school and we had less responsibilities.
That's exactly right. And so that's what I feel we should definitely chat about today, because how my thoughts were working the morning I wrote that down was me reminiscing on a time in my life where I didn't have all those responsibilities, where the micro, whether that micro is meaning a weekend or a week-long vacation, the micro dosing in that nature of when I get those moments since high school. Because right now, the thought in that time when I wrote it down was me thinking only about, wow, back then I had months and years to just talk whenever I wanted to, forever, however long I wanted to. It was in reverse. The amount of times where I was limited was less than the amount of times that I wasn't limited. And now it's in a little bit of a different direction. So there are options of where we focus, right? Mm-hmm. And what we're focusing on. Am I focusing on the limitations that I'm feeling are present in my life right now that do not allow me to feel those moments that I had back then, right? Mm-hmm. Because every week I get to sit here and have a conversation with you that's in depth and long, and sometimes we go well over an hour and a half to 2 hours of talking. Mm-hmm. You guys get the edited version of that.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome, right? So in those moments, right? However, the next day, I could choose to focus on the fact that I don't have any time to do that. So it's kind of like it depends on where my focus is in those moments, right? And I think that morning, whatever reason, because I haven't tapped into that, like what was the reason that that was the thing that I was thinking about that first instance of waking up, the heavy thought that I needed to write down. You know, maybe it was to record this conversation. Who knows?
I think that speaks to, okay, so first I'm going to define in words that came to my mind that sense that you were expressing, that you were describing, is this sense of freedom. And the tough thing about living in this human experience is the responsibilities that we tend to take on can cause us to feel like we have less freedom. And from my recent personal experience, I feel like when we add responsibility on top of responsibility on top of responsibility, we have a hard time stepping away from those responsibilities to give ourselves time and space to feel that freedom.
Right.
And that fun and that joy. Now, I'm not saying that fun and joy and freedom don't come in microdoses like you suggested, but it's taking time to give yourself more of that. And from that recent experience, I recognize that a lot of those responsibilities started to feel like work. And it was work, it was work at home, it was work in my relationships. And it felt like there was a lot of lack when it came to the Department of Fun. And so this past weekend, the reason I said it was a gift is because I actually, for the first time in like 4 months, if you guys haven't listened to the couple months ago, you know, my spouse had a torn ACL. He had surgery for it. During the time when he was injured, during the surgery recovery time frame, we had flooding and flood risks. And so, and then when I came home, my dad also injured himself. And so it's just been a lot of things, right? You know, one after another. And I wouldn't give that up as far as wanting to care for those people.
Right.
But at the same time, it's still necessary to fill my cup up to be able to be that best person for those people.
Yeah.
And so this last weekend, I felt like there was like I was able to breathe and enjoy that space with my spouse too.
Yeah.
And it was nice because we were able to reconnect.
That's good. And there's just times where I wish that those happened more often.
I agree.
You know, and I do my best. And I hope anyone listening to this right now or watching this right now understands that we all do our best to find the joy in moments. And if you're not doing your best, maybe that's a question that we have to ask ourselves. And there's times where I've got to ask myself, am I actually trying here? Or am I just like only focused and stepping into all of the things that are not working for me?
It's where can you take your power back in that?
Right. Exactly. And a lot of the times it's simply asking myself, is this serving me right now?
Mm-hmm.
And the thought itself, is the thought itself serving me right now? Or is it hindering me from being able to actually enjoy the moment that I'm in? And there's times where the moment that I'm in is just not enjoyable, no matter how many times I twist it around in my head, right? So I'm just like, okay, this is just not something that's, you know, going to be a joyful moment, but I'm going to take the necessary, if it's required of me, to take the necessary actions to now move on to the thing that does bring me joy. And so having conversations with people is one of the things that brings me joy. Being able to not feel rushed in conversations, I have now identified as something that brings me joy. My love language, if we want to, I have a little fun thing about the love languages thing. I tend to not lean towards wanting to like that very much, but the whole like grouping of love languages.
Yeah,
Because I feel like we're like a mixed bag of that, but like,
yeah, it's like putting yourself into a box
yes,
when we're trying to dismantle the boxes.
get out of the box.
But at the same time, it can be helpful in that self-discovery as long as you're not limiting yourself to just that.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Carrie. You said it best, honestly. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good.
I was like thinking about this whole love language thing the other day, and it was just like, oh, no, 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 no. Especially if somebody's like very like, hey, look, the only thing that I will accept is what my love language is. And my love language, according to the study that has been done, is defined as only this and this. And I fit best in these two boxes. But that's like, wow, you're leaving yourself completely unflexible to shift into a different box.
I mean, I think that, if we want to go down the love language rabbit hole, like I think that
I don't mean to. It just
no,
happened.
it's all good. I think that you can, just like we grow and change throughout life, those love languages that speak most to us, I think, can shift a little bit as we are in different relationships and learn different things about ourselves and grow as individuals.
Right. It allows you to be more fluid. And the flow state is super important when you are assisting yourself in not feeling stuck. Sometimes a lot of us feel stuck in the everyday patterns of life, right? And those everyday patterns of life are connected to the thought process of what I wrote down, which is I don't have enough time to have the longer, deeper conversations. But it's that rut right there that I was just explaining that has me thinking in a stuck place that that's the only thing that is going on in my life when that's not true, right? And when I say microdosing of these moments, you can take the microdosing moments and be more grateful towards them, right?
And not minimizing them because it didn't meet the criteria of what it was like in childhood,
Exactly.
when we didn't have all the responsibilities and the mortgage and the bills and the jobs and things like that.
That's it.
But you're right. Like some of those conversations, even if it's in more of a condensed time frame, can be just as special, just as validating, just as connecting as the hours of like gossip and chit chat about who the hottest celebrity is of, our teens.
Oh, those are fun. I do feel that like, even though it was a reminiscent moment of a morning that I must have had to like have those thoughts in the first place, or that be the most important thing for me to think about when I wake up, I'm also like thinking to myself, I don't know if I could all the time talk for hours like I did.
It's so funny because each time during this recording that you said talk for hours, I felt like this wave of exhaustion. Like, oh my God.
I don't think I could do it now. Honestly, we get to do it, but dang it, our conversations are fun. But I don't know many people that I could sit there and just talk to for hours to.
So when we're feeling the lack of those connections, I think that gives us that opportunity to really evaluate, okay, is that something I need to make time for myself, and start taking those scheduling steps to reach out to people and touch base with them and reconnect with them. And I know that, again, it's scheduling and it's still a limitation, but at the same time, that time that you spend with them can be expansive.
Absolutely, it can. And it's a matter of what you're putting your intention to during those conversations as well, right? I mean, there's times where I give you a call, and I'm sure this applies with a lot of other people in my life, but I give you a call, and sometimes like I have an intention of exactly what I need to say at that moment, right? And then sometimes we'll riff off of that and we'll go back and forth. And even if the call doesn't last very long, we still are able to get to each point that we were trying to make in the call. There are even funny moments. And I notice that when we do this, where we'll do the whole thing like, okay, I'm going to word vomit and I'll tell you, I need a word vomit. I have a lot to tell you. And I just like word vomit to you. And then I'm like, you go, or vice versa. And then we get it all out and we have a good laugh because it's quite hilarious when you do that. But we had set an intention to like be able to share what we wanted to share. And then you get off the phone and you still feel better, even if you didn't talk for hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Because again, there's that important aspect. I think it's important. I think you'll agree with me. We feel heard.
Yes.
We feel received. We feel like we had space held for us.
Yes. That's exactly right.
And validated.
And I think that's what it all boils down to. Back then, it just, when you're younger, or when, at least I'll speak for myself, when I was younger, I felt heard when I could talk for hours. Right? Now I feel heard when I get some validation or somebody confirms that they actually even heard what I said. Then I feel heard.
I was just thinking of all the like little situations that caused us to even need that validation of being heard in the first place.
Stepping stones of a lot of disasters.
Oh, cheese. Cheese and crackers.
Lots of little moments. A lot of microdosing of not feeling heard.
I don't know. There might have been more macro dosing, but
yeah, that's true. That's very true.
But again, that speaks to when we develop that understanding of the importance of validation, expressing that we have heard somebody else.
Very true. And if you noticed what we just did here, we were able to tie back, whether we verbalized any of those moments, but like we were able to tie back, where did that even come from in the first place? This is one of the stepping stones that we like to introduce on each of our episodes, is allowing you to fully understand where emotions that you're tied to that make you or cause you to feel negative in any way, or receive a negative thought towards something in any way. There's something tied to that usually, because it is our perceptions and our awareness and what it is that we're focused in on that drive the intentions that we have, that drive the thoughts that come in. And so being able to kind of navigate, whether you're doing it with your best friend or you're listening to this podcast and something pops into your head right now and you're having a thought and you're like, I never even thought about the fact that something from, I don't know, childhood, and then some of the things that happened following that, or maybe something that major happened when you turned 20 and now all of a sudden you're in your 40s and you're like, my whole life has been dictated by that one moment back then, whether you've realized it or not. And it's because of something you've been carrying or holding on to.
And understanding that starting point can be a helpful place to create that understanding, but also recognizing, or I should say, that as an adult now, it's also our responsibility to make changes to those patterns or our ways of thinking or our perceptions, our awareness, our focus, and what we give power to. It is our responsibility to work on that.
Absolutely, it is. Good times.
It's just so much more helpful when you have somebody there working on it with you.
It really is. It is.
And so I'm grateful for you, Shira.
I'm grateful for you, Carrie. I was going to call you Carissa, and I was like, I can't do that. How the audience might know you, but dang it, that's not how I know you.
All righty. So last week we skipped this. So we're going to go ahead and head into the collective card reading. Are we doing the thing again where we say the thing at the same time?
It was an accident, but it sounded so good when it happened.
It's funny when it works. It's kind of surprising.
And it also makes us laugh because when we recorded the outro of this entire podcast, we worked on that synchronicity.
We tried to synchronize the statement so much.
Yes.
And finally, our editor had to help us with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
So today we are using the Priestess of the Light Oracle deck by Sandra Ann Taylor, and the artwork is by Kimberly Weber. I shuffled this for a while.
Yeah.
I had gotten, let's see, 2 other cards. And then I was like, all right, come on, guys, like just one more. If you have one more for me, then we'll go with that one. I wasn't feeling completely secure about the first 2. And then all 3 of these popped out at the exact same time. So we're going with these 3, y'all.
And I'm very interested because there was one card that kept coming each time. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious if it's in this 3.
At the bottom of the shuffle, you pointed it out. Yeah. Alrighty. So card number 1. Oh, and I just asked that it just be messages for the highest and greatest good of the collective at this time or at any time a person receives this message. So card number 1. Ooh, beautiful. Touching the earth, planting something new. Now, this card is really beautiful. It looks like there is an angel in all white leaning down and placing their hands on the earth, giving back to Gaia, sending her love and energy. The wings are reaching up towards the sky as this angel is kneeling down. And right off of the edges of the feathers of the wings, there are like iridescent colors, so rainbow colors. And back behind the wings, it looks like the full moon, which is interesting.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
That is a gorgeous card.
You know, when the moon is full, this is not a time to plant, is my understanding.
Okay. But maybe it is a good time to do grounding exercises.
And yeah. And you know what? There's never a bad time, a wrong time. It's always perfectly timed when you give love and gratitude back to Mother Earth.
Yeah, I agree. I sometimes say really nice things to the trees in our backyard because they're really old and they've been struggling. And so I'll envision light coming from my highest self, going through me, amplifying down through my feet, into the ground, into the roots, and all the way to the trees, and sending that love straight back up to them. And that can sound as hippie as you feel like it might. That's fine. You know, everyone has their own thoughts towards that. But I've seen their tree, those limbs getting greener and greener each time.
I do believe in that power for sure. You know, I was just thinking about, we celebrate like Mother's Day. And so often we thank our mothers and our fathers for the gifts that they've given us, whether that's the gift of life, the gift of love, support, whatever it is. We express that gratitude hopefully often. I'm sure we could all
do a little better.
Yeah. But I don't think that we do this enough with Mother Earth, who is literally like giving us life every day, providing us the atmosphere that keeps the oxygen, that the trees that she grows creates, the water that, I understand, like this is something new to me. I just learned about this yesterday, but all of our water, right, is, we think it comes from the oceans and the lakes and the ice caps and things like that. But I learned yesterday that scientists, I guess, are trying to figure out a way to access new clean water. And what they're doing is finding points in the Earth's crust where it's kind of bubbled up and there's geysers coming out. So like Yosemite would be an example.
Fascinating.
But again, this is what I'm really trying to connect this to, is the fact that Mother Earth gives us life and we should be grateful.
I love it. I am grateful. I'm grateful that I'm here. I'm grateful that I get to have this time to talk. Okay.
I'm grateful for Earth School.
I'm grateful. Still working on that one. Still working on that one.
I don't love it always, but it's like, no. Let me put it this way. I love it, but I don't always like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that taking intentional time to express gratitude and sending Mother Earth healing, loving energy is really important right now. More important than it ever has been.
Yeah. I mean, she's definitely calling to us. She's letting us know all the time, just like your body lets you know when something's up. The planet does too, right?
I mean, if we're going to act parasitic, she's going to react like we're parasitic. So, with that, let's go to card number 2, which is abundance, fortune, wealth, and plenty. So, this card, a beautiful card. I don't think I've gotten this one either. Oh, there's elephants at the bottom. Okay, so there is a woman. She appears to be kind of I think Indian in heritage, and it looks a little bit representative of, I think, Shiva. I could be wrong. I'm not trying to be rude about that. That information isn't strong in my brain. But she's got like 4 arms, 2 of them which are kind of faded, but 4 arms coming from her. In the top 2 hands, it looks like this woman is holding a lotus in each hand. And from the other 2 lower hands, it looks like gold petals or gold water is falling from her hands onto the heads of 2 elephants, which are just below her. Behind her, it kind of has this feeling of like the Taj Mahal as far as the structure, shape, and details on it. But I've got the guidebook. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry. It's not Shiva. This is actually the goddess Lakshmi. So thank you, guidebook, for clarifying. Holds out her hands in divine offering, and the universe responds with such abundant blessings that gold coins come cascading down. So, without reading more in the book, there's so much deep connection between touching earth and the abundance. Because when we love Mother Earth, when we give back to her, she's going to give back to us tenfold. But if we continue to take, she's going to take.
Yeah, what I find interesting is that there is even a connection into what we were talking about earlier, because I see touching the earth and planting something new as also normally when you're planting something, you are likely thinking about something in the sense of being grateful for it, right? So there's a lot of gratitude in that. And gratitude is the thoughts and feelings of gratitude is very, very connected to manifesting abundance and receiving abundance and feeling abundant. And when I say abundance, it doesn't mean necessarily that it has to be monetary. Mm-hmm. And you can feel abundant in having a short conversation that was fulfilling.
Absolutely. I was going back to the first card and just thinking what it was like to plant some of the first seeds. Like, I felt so much excitement for the potential life that I was assisting in creating. And I just can't help but think that Mother Earth may feel the same.
Absolutely. I keep getting this very strong thought right now that a lot of times that when you're planting something, it's in your knowing that it will grow. Mm. And if we apply that same thought process to half the things that we set an intention towards, and we just know that it's going to work out and that it will grow from whatever aspect you're in, that in itself is gratitude. Mm-hmm. That in itself is an abundant thought, mm-hmm. which is just really pretty.
The book also says, always remember that value comes in many forms. I'm validating you here.
Nice.
There is good fortune in nature. Card number 1. Friendship.
Hey.
And the simple moment of small joys. This grateful
Phenomenal.
awareness will shine in your life like the sweet violet aura around Lakshmi's luminous being. At her feet, here's the baby elephants, herald the arrival of true prosperity, bringing with them an energy of strength and peaceful certainty.
Elephants are so beautiful. Oh, that's amazing. Yay.
Beautiful. All right, card number 3.
Oh, wow.
Summoning power, instinct, intellect, and control. There's a woman standing there. It looks like she has horns of an elk, and she's standing tall, almost like is that tree pose where you're just standing tall like a tree, and holding this elk horn above her head with the full moon shining bright behind her. To her left are 2 white wolves. One is sitting, watching. The other one looks like they are standing and ready to move forward.
Wow. This, I'm not going to lie. The first time I saw this card, which, by the way, it's on a much smaller screen for me over here, but it made me think of you and your two fur babies.
Oh.
And how I've watched you grow so much and connecting your intuition and all that. Like, that's exactly what I saw when I saw this summoning power one and the two dogs.
That's cool.
Long hair helps.
You know, right off the bat, I saw a connection between like instinct, right? And nature. Like, so often we think about instinct being a natural thing, something that's learned from nature. I think what we forget is there's a lot of knowledge or wisdom in our instinct. And so instinct can be connected with intuition. And right next to it is intellect. So the three I's right there: instinct, intuition, intellect. And all those things like working together to assist you in how you move through this world.
I'm not going to lie. I'm wondering if she's going to throw that stick and they're going to play fetch and they're going to bring it back.
That's funny. I feel like, okay, this card is telling you that you have far more power than you realize. There may be something in your life, perhaps a relationship or a recent challenge, that you have felt powerless to handle. If so, it's time to focus your own intellect and instinct on the issue at hand, then muster the courage to take the necessary action. It may also be time to harness the unhealthy personal patterns that you have left unchecked. Indulgences and addictions might seem to have the upper hand, but your wild impulses can absolutely be tamed. Remain peaceful but persistent in this noble pursuit of self-honoring and self-control. Be honest about your ability to prioritize your higher needs. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. That I have my own personal connections with that particular card. So that's very, very powerful and a lot of amazing validation. And so I am curious if that is touching anyone else that is listening to this or watching this on YouTube. Please feel free to comment below if it is. I'm sure the community would love to like feel a sense of community in those thoughts. I'd love it.
I do feel like this little spread is connected, but I wish I could make this go in a circle.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they're all connected. When we reconnect with Mother Earth, there is so much abundance that she provides if we treat her with love and kindness. And then if you think about how powerful she is, I don't think we give enough credit to Gaia.
Yeah.
Like, we minimize her power and think much more highly of ourselves as a human race.
Yeah.
That we think we can control her.
Well, she came first.
She will also
Come
leave last. Yeah. But when we utilize that connection, we are summoning that mother feminine energy that is powerful through love and connection.
Yeah, I agree. That's actually really, really beautiful. And I absolutely love it. There's literally like the times in our lives where we kind of just need a little reminder of having that abundance already present. And I feel like that particular deck, I feel like today even, I feel like, and maybe that's what the message was for me in the first place, is to kick off a conversation and remind myself that I am abundant in so many aspects that sometimes it just takes my focus and intention to see it. Mm-hmm. And just a little reminder like today that allows me to see that a little bit more. So that I will give gratitude. Following this, I will go outside and let my dog out. And while I'm out there, I'll stick my bare feet in the backyard and send love.
You've surveyed to make sure there's no...
Well, truth. I know
you don't want to step on the space.
I know the spot. So yeah.
Thank you guys for being here. I hope you enjoyed this episode and this little discussion today about just reminiscing, how things used to be, how we can reconnect with the feelings that we used to have when we were younger, when we used to have less responsibility, because Lord knows we're not going to get rid of that anytime soon. And just take a moment. Like this may be a personal ask, but I would like to ask each of you to just take a few moments, whether that's 5 seconds or 5 minutes, and send that loving energy back to Mother Earth, thanking her for all of that love that she gives us in our food, through our water, through staying present with us, through, just providing us the atmosphere that keeps us safe on this planet, and the opportunity to live life on Earth in the time frame that we're able to. So if you don't mind, I would greatly appreciate that. I think Mother Earth, she needs some lifting up too. We can't forget about her. It's important that we take care of her so she continues to take care of us.
We're all organisms sharing the same field, so it's a very good thing to do that. And speaking of helping somebody out, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, notification bells.
What is it? Planting something new?
That would be planting something new if you're not already subscribed to our channel.
Fair enough.
Oh my gosh. We have social media.
We are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts at Love Always Self.
What? Who knew? Who knew? We have a website.
We have a website.
LoveAlwaysSelf.com.
Good job.
I know. I didn't use the W's. Or did I just now? Oh no. All right. Well, before we get way too silly, because I'm about to go there.
Yep.
Thank you all so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And then
we also look forward to having you back next time. And don't forget to love first,
love last,
and love always.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shira.
And until next time, remember to love first,
love last,
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.